Hello there guys, it's Joey. So I am trying to catch up with the YouTube Pagan challenge. Fingers crossed we'll catch up. But today I'm going to cover the meditation question and the chants and affirmations question. I'm actually going to leave the totem animal one because a lot of the totem work I do with animals is really quite private and I don't tend to talk about it. So I'm going to go with my instinct on that one and not talk about it. So If I'm glowing like a crazy glowworm, I apologise. I look like crazy white on the camera. It might not come out in the editing. I'll try not to be distracted by that. So the questions that we're going to cover in this particular video are like, do you meditate and how you meditate, and perhaps anything unusual about your meditational practices, and then the affirmations and chants. We've got a lot of spirit activity in this house recently and I just heard something thump. Apparently we're doing something right. Okay. Before I was so rudely interrupted. Oh, now our energy's going through the roof. Okay. So, meditation is what I was going to talk about. I've been completely sidelined by like energies coming through and right. So meditation had been a point for me where I found it a little bit difficult in the beginning. I found it difficult to kind of sit and meditate in the traditional style that is sort of presented, the Eastern style of, you know, sitting cross-legged or yoga pose and meditating under a tree and things like that, because I suffer with my back because of, long story. But I do sometimes do that, particularly if I'm going to go to bed afterwards. And the reason for that is that I actually taught myself a sort of meditative technique in order to be able to sleep. I went through a phase where I had really quite bad insomnia and I was having trouble getting to sleep. So I actually used meditational techniques to get me to go to sleep really, really quickly, and it works to this day. And I sort of started off that when I would lie down to go to sleep on my pillow, on my bed, I would make myself as heavy as I could, like heavy as a stone, and like ground down into the earth. And that practice just drew me into a state of sleep. Now I don't sleep particularly heavily, I like dream a lot, and I remember a lot of my dreams. I can remember 5, 6, 7 dreams a night, and it's a bit unusual, and I think it's because I don't heavily sleep. I kind of sleep around it's the REM state, I think, where you dream, your random eye movement state where you dream. I'm pretty sure that's right. And so I used that meditative technique in order to sort of overcome something that was a problem for me, and it works so well now that I can just lie down and I'm gone. And that's not natural for me because my mind is pretty overactive, but I sort of taught myself that meditative technique in order to help me sleep. So I had to kind of get inventive with how I really looked at and saw meditation as a practice. I think that we kind of get bombarded by the idea and images and of that we're supposed to be sort of sat on a lily pad, you know, meditating that way, and it's not necessarily the case. It's funny because I bought a Spirit and Destiny magazine for the first time in about 10 years, just on, there was one article that interested me, and they were actually talking about, as well, this isn't the one that interested me, but about meditation for your zodiac, and I was sat, and before I read it I was like, alright, yeah, okay, so what's it going to say for the earth signs, for Virgos? This is going to be interesting. But it was actually really good, and it actually said, you know, that, you know, because of how active Virgo minds are, you need to find a way that encompasses sort of a movement, because you're a fluid, mutable sign, and one of the best ways is actually like going for a walk and zoning out in your head and taking things in around you, such as nature, and meditating that way. And I was like, that's what I do, so I'm on board with this. And I kind of do like this active meditation where I go walking and you focus on the rhythm of your breathing and you focus on the rhythm of your walking and your steps, and your mind just kind of clears and empties out, and it can be really, really useful. In terms of visualization, I've never had a problem. So, you know, people are like, oh, well, you need to meditate and raise your energy in order for spell work. And I'm like, well, for raising energy for spell work, I'd much rather be like singing or dancing or doing something proactive and quite fiery in order to get the energy right up there for where it needs to be in terms of spell work. And emptying the mind for spellcraft isn't quite the same to me. It kind of borders more on a visualization process rather than on what a meditational process does, which is shifting the inward energy. And I think I want to be sort of up, like energy up for spell work and things rather than chilled out for spell work. I mean, I understand the idea of being chilled out and focusing solely on the goal, but I think for spell work in particular, it's kind of like the goal needs to be a need. You know, you've got to want. It's got to be E rather than ah, if that makes any sense. Probably not, probably just talking a load of nonsense, but there you go, making noises at you, you're welcome. And yeah, so I think that's it really for meditation. I was sat here thinking, I don't know that it's something that I can really add to the kilowatts of information that's out there, and really all I can suggest about meditation is finding a practice that works for you. And you know, if you do find a more active process through dance or through walking or through just, you know, going out in nature and just becoming one with nature is a really good way of doing it. Just like embracing how nature feels and what nature's doing and what the trees are moving and listening to the birds and things, and you kind of go out of yourself just instantly. At least I do. So as for moving on down that road, I don't know what this is. This is moving on down that road. Yeah. Affirmations and chants and mantras. I actually share chants for the Morrigan in particular on this channel, and sometimes I keep them to myself, and then sometimes I share them with the world out there in YouTube. And it tends to be kind of like how I feel that she sort of feels about it, like whether she wants it out there or if it's kind of a private process. It's like recently I was going to make a video and then I got a very, very strong impression that no, that part is just for you. And I was like, okay, all right, okay. And you'll know what's coming and where you're connecting due to the other people who are sort of bouncing around the same ideas. So affirmations and chants and things I think are incredibly important. The Celtic path has an onus really on the spoken word. You know, the ancient Druids wouldn't write things down or felt that writing things down actually took away from their power. And whilst I love the written word, so I don't feel the same way about it, sometimes I will do, say, spell work or chants and things, and I will just do them kind of once, and that's their purpose, and I won't like record them for like future use, because it's just that point in time, that spell, that chant, that affirmation in that moment is meant to be there, and then, you know, after that point it's not. That's kind of the end of it, if you will. It's meant to be used, tapped into, channeled at that particular moment, and later on is a different moment. I think the power of the word, the power of the spoken voice is incredibly potent and powerful, and I'm kind of a big nerd when it comes to like the spoken word and the written word and books and chants and affirmations and poetry. I think it has a power to really change us, the power to move you. Yeah, Tenacious D, we won't sing that song. So I think it really, really plays a really important part in lives of all of us, whether we be involved in a witchcraft lifestyle or not. Our wounds can heal, our words can heal, our words can harm and wound. We have to be aware of them. We have to be aware of what we're saying about who we are and how we treat ourselves, because sometimes we can be our own worst critics, and then that comes out in the world and it's not a good thing, and we're stopping ourselves from healing that way. And then, you know, sometimes we can say things on an off-cuff remark and then they end up manifesting, and you're thinking, I should have been more careful with what I was saying. That was, yeah. And then sometimes words have real gravity, real depth, real meaning, and that, you know, to connect through word and speech is the beginning of a journey. It's something very, very important. In terms of spell work and magical work and things, obviously you have to then manifest that in the physical. You know, you can't just speak things and not act on them, because then nothing gets done. It's just words. Words become wind, and they become less, you sort of cheapen the words and you lessen the words, and it's not a good thing. Living by one's word in terms of a Celtic path is very important. This is my word, this is my Geis, this is my bond. And if you know about Celtic mythos, Geis is a promise, a sacred promise, and it comes up a lot in mythos to do with the Morrigan, because she's big on her spoken Geis, her spoken promise. And often when she's involved, she will quite frequently, in my experience, sort of give people 3 opportunities to sort of say, is this your word? Is this your bond? Is this your Geis? And I've noticed in these scenarios, it's like you have to try 3 times, and if you've sworn 3 times, then you've sworn, and you better damn well act on it, because it's the Morrigan. And it's kind of like the word being truth. Like the spoken word being your truth, being an essence of who you are. You're giving flight to your soul in a way, because you are expressing outwardly, you're vibrating out in the world. That's how we hear, you know, through vibrations, and how we speak, and our vocal cords, and the vibration of energy that goes out into the world. And the spoken word is so potent, so powerful. It can change, it can reach out, it can embrace, it can push away, it can do everything that we can do with our voices. It's not the only form of communication, and there's a heck of a lot of communication that goes on which is not verbal, obviously. And like I said, you know, for things to become tangible, we have to honour our word. And in terms of this Celtic Geis path, this is incredibly important. Like, if you don't uphold your word, then you don't uphold your honour, and it's kind of, it's not good. When these things of gravitas matter, you have to put your heart and your soul and into speaking your truth, and then backing up your truth. So I think this sort of affirmation of who you are is an outward representation of what you are on the inside, and you want that to be kind of like the best version of you that you can be. You don't want to be wasting time saying things that don't really resonate with who you are. And I think we all do it, you know. I think at some point in our lives we have got stuck in situations which aren't to our highest truth, and trying to find a reasonable way to align what we want and how we speak and how we feel with what we're doing is part and parcel of the course of walking and talking a witchy path. And that's a phrase that comes up, you know, quite a bit. You know, you've got to walk your talk. And I think that is sort of the next step. That is the important thing to remember, that when we are talking, we are affirming something to ourselves regularly. This is who I am a witch, I am a magical practitioner, I believe in this, I follow this, I love this, I need this, and etc, etc. Sort of affirming to who we are on a personal level, and we then have to walk it, you know, we have to manifest it, we have to make it real and go through with what we say we're going to, because otherwise we're half living, and we become sort of shades of who we really want to be. And I understand it, because it's something that I have been through on a number of occasions, that, you know, that's who I want to be, that's where I want to be going, and then there's, you know, blockages and obstacles and things. And when you work with a Morrigan, she's not likely going to allow you to stay in a situation which is ultimately harmful for you, and she will tear it down. She will tear it down if you don't do it yourself. You know, she'll probably give you a few chances to do it yourself, and if you don't, then she will probably tear it all down and be like, this is what I told you to do, this is what you needed to do, this is what you really wanted, this is the word that you spoke, this was your Geist, this was your promise, this was your word, and now we will fulfill it. And whether you like it or not, basically, it tends to happen quite a bit. And I can hear her laughing at me. Yes, Joanne, you will do as you're told. You will. I know. I know. I want to. I want to go where you want to take me. So really, it's aligning, and I think that's really, really interesting in terms of a vocal expression. You know, when we sing, when we chant, when we scream, when we shift the tone and attitude and magical vibration of our voice, we can tap into different areas, different aspects of who we are, and it really is a reflection of us, like how we speak. I mean, I'm a big vocal nerd and a big voice witch nerd. I love it. I think it's really wonderful, and you know, it's not going to be the same for everybody. In terms of, you know, some people feel that certain elements are more important than the vocal aspect, and they focus more on hand gestures, for example, or sigils or dance and things. I like to align everything to it begins and ends with the word, if that makes sense. The beginning and the end of a situation begins with a phrase, begins with a spoken energy, begins with the importance of a noise. And if you think about it, you can manifest this in all sorts of ways. The beginning of something can be as simple as this: knock on the door. The awakening, that noise of a knock as a door is being presented to you, and then you can start having visualizations of that door if you so wish, and it's sort of like, this is the opportunity knocking that, you know, you've been looking for. An opportunity knocks. Opportunity knocking is a play on words. It's something which is sort of internalized into our society as a phrase, a sort of catchphrase even, that makes sense. And when we hear that phrase, we know what the idea is, the concept behind it. We know that it's about seize the day, it's about carpe diem, it's about, you know, this is an opportunity, is come knocking, open the door. And then you have to walk your talk and open the door. You have to reach out and let it in. And then what you do with it is equally important. Like, where do you go from there? You put your feet on the path, then you walk, and the journey is the discovery, and the discovery is the adventure. And it is a very internal and it's a very personal thing, I think, is what I wanted to get to. It's not going to look the same for everybody. So I do have this big nerd love for the spoken and written word. I love wordplay. I love the idea of creating sort of intricate spell work that sort of, I love rhyming. A lot of people in poetry are like, oh, well, it doesn't have to rhyme. And I was like, yes, it should. Yes, it should. I love rhyming. I love, like, playing with words. I love the effect that certain words can have. I love that, you know, certain words really are special and potent and deeply meaningful, even though it's not necessarily meaningful to people outside of ourselves. It's like our own integral personal code. And, you know, certain words will remind us of certain things and will make us feel certain ways, and that's beautiful in its own way, you know, that we have our own sort of interplay with words and the spoken word and affirmations and things which can lift us up and make us happy and make us joyous, or make us sad, or affect us on an emotional vibration, which is ultimately the path to magic, is through emotional vibration. I think I'm gonna stop, otherwise we're gonna be here for an hour, and I'm gonna be like, nerd, 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 love, 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 basically. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. I love it, I adore it. I think speech and the singing and the vocal chant is a really fascinating, really important, really worthwhile aspect of witchcraft. Okay, so that's it for this particular video. Many blessings.